What's going on, guys? This is John Zakari, and today I want to talk about Koji Igarashi's Castlevania spiritual successor, Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night. If you're unfamiliar with the history of the Castlevania series, you should know that the older games were very different from many of the Castlevania games you see today. In its glory days, it was all about side-scrolling action platforming with a gothic horror setting. The series got its start on the NES and introduced RPG elements to platforming gameplay, which was not common at the time. Sharing a similar style of gameplay with the Metroid series, especially in terms of leveling up and map exploration, this style of gameplay is widely called Metroidvania. The series has gone back and forth between this Metroidvania and more linear styles of play for some time, but games done in the former style are largely considered to be the standouts, highlighted by titles like Symphony of the Night. And that's not to say anything against the more linear games. I mean, hell, Castlevania 4 is actually one of my favorite entries in the series. More recently though, the series has been all over the place, with third-person action games and even a fighting game. Most of the best recent entries in the series have actually been on handhelds, largely Nintendo handhelds like the Game Boy Advance and the Nintendo DS. Igarashi has worked on many of these games and is looking to make a true-to-form Castlevania game that goes back to that 2D, or should I actually say now 2.5D, Metroidvania style. With Igarashi treating this as a passion project, accompanied by talent that has worked on previous Castlevania as well as Mega Man titles, and even Solid Snake himself starring in the game, you know it's going to be good. But the question I'm raising is, with Castlevania's storied history on Nintendo hardware, should this game be brought to the Wii U, as it currently isn't included on the list of consoles on the game's Kickstarter, and isn't featured in any of the stretch goals. If you follow my videos, you probably know I'm a pretty big Nintendo fan, and obviously I'd like to see more games on the Wii U. But with so many major developers reporting poor sales on the Wii U, a smaller developer like this needs to be wary on whether or not to make their game on the console, especially since designing for the Wii U is said to be much different from the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. I'd like to start my argument with the Wii U Virtual Console. If you go through the classic games you can buy there digitally, the Castlevania series is one of the best represented franchises, with many of the greatest Nintendo entries available spanning through the NES into even those more recent handheld titles on GBA. Even some of the more obscure games like Dracula X on Super Nintendo is available. With so many Castlevania games being made available, it's clear that many Wii U owners have been either replaying their favorite Castlevania titles, or even discovering new entries for the first time. These gamers would be a key target demographic for this spiritual successor. Going back to the poor performance of major third-party games on the console, this can actually be a benefit to smaller indie games, as they don't have to compete with as many major AAA games for gamers' attention, especially on the eShop. Look at Shovel Knight. That was a great example of how a retro-inspired indie Kickstarter game can find success on Nintendo platforms. It was a quality product that was featured prominently on the eShop, and Wii U owners as well as 3DS owners supported it appropriately. So yeah, with Castlevania having a long history on Nintendo platforms, and being well supported on the Virtual Console, along with Shovel Knight proving that there is a market on Nintendo platforms for these throwback type games, I think Bloodstained would find a nice home on the Wii U. But for now, it doesn't seem very likely. Or does it? Looking through the Kickstarter page, there is a section in the FAQ titled, "What about Nintendo?" The response reads, "Our budget left us with two options: build the biggest, most beautiful game we can, or make sure it runs everywhere from the start. As things stand today, we can't afford to create the two separate versions of this game that would be necessary to make it run on every console. That said, we've heard legends about a remarkable treasure hidden in the castle basement." That remarkable treasure comment seems a little odd, right? It says it's hidden in the castle basement, but what could that mean? Well, if you look at the stretch goals section, you'll notice that the rewards are listed in a tower, or maybe a castle. The rewards are listed in increasing order down the castle wall. After the original goals were met, newer ones were added up to the $2 million mark on what appears to be the second floor. Perhaps once these new goals are met, we'll see what's waiting in the castle basement. A Wii U stretch goal maybe? Hell, since they don't mention the Wii U specifically in the FAQ, they might be considering a Wii U and a 3DS version. Regardless, the chances are we're probably going to find out since this Kickstarter has already reached $1.6 million in funding in only a few days, with 30 days left to go. Personally, I've already pledged to the Kickstarter for one of those physical copies, but I'd probably pledge more if a Wii U version was made available. Well, that wraps things up for this video, but I want to hear from you guys. Are you excited for Bloodstained Ritual of the Night? And would you get the game if it was made available on Wii U? Let me know in the comments. As always, I'm John Zakari, and thanks for watching.